Hi Khemeia fans, Ian Sharp, Khemeia Consulting, and you're watching At the Sharp End, a weekly business show where we talk about topical themes that we've encountered with our clients or encountered ourselves in our various roles. And today, on today's show, we're going to be talking about leadership innovation and managing how to lead in difficult times. And to help me in that quest, that thirst for knowledge, I've got our very own Haroon Rashid. Welcome, Haroon.
What up, sports fans? Hey!
So thanks for joining us. I think we've both encountered this with both clients and personally as well, where we've been leading teams of people, and then you encounter a stressful situation. So let's kick it off. Let's talk about a team's together, a business is running or started. There's a clearly articulated vision, it's up there on the wall, everybody knows where there's going, and then something happens. And we're going to talk about it from a few different perspectives, aren't we, today? Starting over a few scenarios where it could be a key member leaves and introduces a little bit of stress to the team, or there's some sort of event where the company is going to get bought or sold or something, and so that introduces stress. Or you've got a client that perhaps isn't paying the bills, and that's causing cash flow stress. And those things create uncertainty and create stress in the business. Would you like to kick off, Haroon, with one of the examples that you've got?
One of the examples that I had was actually from the voluntary sector. So I was doing some, I guess, community work, leader of a team, and with the voluntary sector, we all know that you don't have any financial leverage with people. That's a real true test of leadership, I think. So we had a very, very small team. Resources were very small. Like you said, we had good people, but a lot was demanded of them, and I think that because there wasn't enough resources, it kind of put stress on the team. So we were in a situation where we kind of were probably going to lose the people that we had, and we had to think, well, how can we actually keep these people here? So one of the techniques that I used was actually from Simon Sinek. We talk about Simon Sinek quite a lot, about starting with why. There'll probably be a video in the show notes, I'm sure, about starting with why, the golden circle. But his principle is that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So I thought, well, let me just set out this clear vision of why we are here doing this thing for this particular demographic. And once we did that, I can remember almost like the energy in the room when we were going through this thing. It just kind of changed, and people's physicalities changed, their demeanors changed. They became much more engaged and much more like, oh, now I get it. And it was like an energizing sort of thing that happened. And everyone kind of got involved more than they were before, and just volunteering themselves without even being asked, which was really great. So that was just one example that I have.
And that's really great, actually, because you're talking about a group there that are encountering a stress, but actually by going through that process and being able to pull together and understand and believe in what they're doing, it pulled everybody together probably stronger than before that stressful situation came about. So you'd motivated the team, maybe better than before the stressful situation happened.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what was really funny, Ian, was that people were saying, I'm really glad we did this because I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was the reason why we did this, and I didn't know the effect of my role in this team and how I can affect other people. So it really kind of made it very clear, to the degree where we actually wrote it down in black and white, so there was no chance for it to be misconstrued. It was so plain and so simple for everyone to understand.
And you've touched on a key aspect there of motivating a team and aligning a team, and that is about communication. And that's why we advocate actually putting your vision, if you prefer a vision, but your strategic goals for the growth of the company up on a chart or on a whiteboard, so that everybody can see it day to day. Put it on the screensaver if you prefer. And companies that share their growth ambitions with their clients often end up engaging with their clients much more deeply, because the clients buy in as well, so they understand that a company is not just here to make a fast buck and get out. they're actually here for the long term, and as a client, they could be a strategically important part of that. So it's motivating externally as well as internally.
Yeah, I mean, with yourself, Ian, I mean, all the clients that we have, they go to you, they want more sales, they want to grow, and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things I've noticed, working with you now for about a year and a half, I've noticed that one thing you do emphasize is this whole thing about vision and creating a clear vision, not just any old vision, a clear vision, and communicating that. So it's like, yeah, I know you need more sales, but do you actually know what you're doing? Do your team know? And quite often the answer is no, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah, unfortunately. So you might have the best people in the world, great team, but unless they're all pulling in the same direction, your company's not going to perform, right? So that in itself can lead to difficult times. And I think there's another point about leadership as well, where sometimes people are brought into a team so that the business owner can abdicate responsibility. So there's that whole thing between delegating responsibility and abdicating your responsibilities. And really, if a team's going to operate, you can't abdicate responsibility. The team's in it together, and the team got to look out for one another, and the team have got to work together to the best effect. And unless they do that, the business is going to really struggle to grow and to be effective. I'm really, I do talk about vision a lot, but I also talk about what steps we're going to take to reach that vision, as you well know. So our targets are based on the vision, our day-to-day activities are based on the vision, and it really permeates every aspect of the company.
And what you're saying there is that there's like this active sort of thing that's going on, because I find that a lot of people who are struggling with their leadership, and this is in any kind of sector, they kind of, I think a lot of them are very lackadaisical. They're kind of just very passive, and they just assume that, well, because I'm in the leadership role, people will just do what I'm going to do. And it's just like, well, no. When pressure comes, it's going to bring out the worst in people, and you've got to be ready to kind of make sure you're active in your leadership and try and get people motivated and all that kind of stuff.
So we had a client as well where I think you know the client as well, and they had a small team, and whenever we were present, they'd hold a meeting, they'd have an agenda, they'd go down, this is what we're doing, da 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 da. And then when you talk to the business owner, he'd be saying things like, oh well, they went off and did this, and that didn't happen, and there was really no accountability.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that was abdicating responsibility to people who weren't necessarily ready to take that role and that responsibility on. And then once he'd done that, it wasn't managed either. So the accountability is not there. People don't feel part of a team, and actually, the team end up talking behind the business owner's back and really not acting as a team, almost pulling in almost a totally different direction to the company. Makes it tremendously difficult to grow, even if you've got the right process in place, the right finance in place. You've really not got the right systems in place.
Absolutely. I mean, the person, I know exactly who you're talking about, and it's not typical. I'm sorry, it is a common thing. Great guy, had a great business and everything, but the staff were just unmotivated. They didn't know why they were there. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know if they were valued, if their efforts were worth anything. And I think a lot of it could have been just curbed by, like you say, just being there and just motivating people, letting them know that this is what we're trying to do. I mean, hey, we've all been in situations in our various companies or whatever, in our previous things where, difficult times come, but you've got to do something. You can't just sit behind the closed door and just say, well, I'm the boss, go off and do this, that's your job. It doesn't work like that.
So one of the situations I experienced personally was I walked into a senior role, an exec team role, and the company was in a difficult situation, and we had to cut 10% of staff worldwide, and we had to do a lot of other optimizations through the business as well. And we did, we just did a whole raft of things. We changed banks, we changed manufacturing partners, we cut staff, all to the good of the company, to be fair. So slimming it down was with that vision of getting back to growth and growing the company, and that's exactly what it did. But stepping in somewhere that's cutting 10% of its workforce is extremely uncomfortable and extremely stressful. So the best thing you can do really in that situation is build that process that you're going to go through, communicate it clearly, make sure there's no favoritism, run it properly, and actually just go through it very methodically, be very fair with people, very open communication, and as you go through it, pretty much everybody respects you for doing that.
That's really good. And I think another thing that we probably should touch upon is that difficult times will always come. That it doesn't matter who you are, difficult times will come. And I think what helps us is that if you have that relational currency with people in the good times, and you build up that currency so that when the difficult times come, you've got something there to kind of work with. It's no point when difficult times come, you being the worst leader in the world, and then when difficult times come, you then all of a sudden just start to become the good leader, because they're going to go, well, who the hell are you? Why should I do this for you?
That's right, and you've not got the emotional currency with people if you've not had that relationship to start with. So you've got to culture that, and culture that as part of your team. And so a great example is you'll often go to meetings, and do you get asked if you're okay? You might turn up, you might have had a terrible night's sleep, or something's happened in your private life, you're not feeling great. Who notices? Does your boss notice? Does the MD notice? Who notices? And if they do notice, do they actually take you on one side and say, are you all right? Is there anything we can do? Can we support you? Because the emotional currency that you get from that, and the support and the teamwork that you get from that, goes way, way, way beyond any compensation, financial compensation that you can give someone.
Absolutely.
So you've got to build a company that is nice, friendly, caring, and people will work their socks off if you can do that for your company.
And it doesn't take much to do that. It doesn't take, it doesn't take a lot out of your day to do that. It's just, like you said, just a quick aside. Hey, is everything all right? Yeah, fine. I'm here for you if you need it. Fine, that's good, but like you say, it goes a long way. But that whole abdicating responsibility thing is a really, really big issue, and I just think that a lot of people are put in positions, okay, fine, whichever way they got there, whether daddy owns the company, or whether it's just an incestuous thing, or whatever, you're there, do something with that role.
Do you know what? A lot of time as well, it's not just big companies that happens in, it's small companies as well. So small companies trying to grow have other problems, right? So they might have limited skill sets within the initial team. So you often get a couple of founders, one will be great at sales, one will be great at operations, they can run a company between them. The finance side of things might be an issue. The HR side of things in that situation will almost always be an issue. Marketing might be questionable. They might have a mate who does some marketing, but as the business grows, it becomes a little bit untenable. You end up with that sales operations tension. They're looking for people not to become part of that core team, one of the core pillars of the business. So other senior staff members can be marginalised, and although it might be said that they've got responsibility, and we've had this with the client as well, where the MD's abdicated responsibility and actually said, you have responsibility to do this, and then when it comes down to it, he wants veto on everything. So he wants final say, he's delayed process, and that's just terrible, because it's undermining the team, and actually it causes a lot of confusion as well, so it's not clear where they're going and what they're trying to achieve.
And what about focus in terms of you've set the vision, there's a clear action plan, and I think that some leaders will go, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and everything. And so where should the focus be then in difficult times? Well,
you've just reminded me of my childhood and Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi. Oh, remember focus, very important. And it is, isn't it? The vision is the big picture. The focus is how are you getting the day-to-day actions done, the day-to-day operations done. It's going to be hard. A lot of businesses have a very high run rate. So you're in the morning, bang, and people work right through. And unfortunately, small businesses, that's it's almost doubly true. You might not get a lunchtime, or you might not get the amount of time you want for your lunch, and you might only get one cup coffee through the day or whatever. It's relentless. But those people are there. They've got to focus on what they're doing to get things done. One thing that they can do is plan the day better. So half an hour spent planning what you're going to do can make you so much more effective. And you've got to have time away from that run rate stuff where you can go, right, if I can get these 3 things off my desk, then the others will naturally fall into place and make it a lot easier to do.
Totally. Do you know what? There's that whole thing about we've all got the same amount of time in the world. No one has got 25 hours or 26 or whatever. Everyone's got the same amount of time. So like you're saying there, like I know people who look at us and go, how do you guys get so much done? And I say, well, it's because we know how to manage our time properly. Like, okay, it helps that I only get by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep a day, but that does help quite a lot.
You need to cut down the party. You know that? You need to cut down the party.
That's what it is. But I mean, we've got our Khemeia to run.
Oh, you've frozen on me there, just for a second.
Am I back again? Am I back now? Hello?
No, you're frozen again.
Testing.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, we're running Khemeia, we're doing the client's work, we've got a network, and then some of us are, married, we've got kids, we've got our other responsibilities and all that, but somehow we managed to fit it all in. And like you say, it doesn't take long to plan your day, but if you do that, it just makes everything a lot easier to achieve.
So it's one of the key things that effective people do is to try and plan the day before. So at the end of your working day, try and plan what you're doing the day after. And then when you hit it on a morning, don't get into doing emails and calls. Try and get some of the meaningful work done that you can get off your desk and feel like you've accomplished something. And then the rest of the day, you can get on with handling the clients, making calls, doing sales, whatever your day brings, right? Whatever your responsibilities are.
So, do you know, I remember remembering something that as a student I used to work in the public sector. I won't say which area, but the crap hit the fan with one project, and it was a big project that affected the whole of West Yorkshire and a particular demographic. Now, the person who was in charge, this was a difficult time, and they were just not focused. They didn't have any kind of clear direction. They didn't want to attack the awkward issues. They didn't want to have awkward conversations. They were really high priority tasks that needed to be done. But every time you asked them, they were like, don't know. I hate that. I hate when people say don't know. Have you done that yet? No. Why not? Don't know. Don't give me that crap. Seriously, like you are in charge of a big budget, like worth over £1 million. Don't tell me don't know. Oh God. Anyway, I'm going to go on a Haroon rant, but I'm not going to do it.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But it's absolutely true, isn't it? And that person was probably running a project that they either weren't bought into or weren't suitable to run. They'd just been handed it. Here you go. You do that, and they were like, ooh.
Well, yeah, put in a leadership position when he wasn't the right person to do that. Had it been private? Well,
yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. Whether it's like you alluded to before, whether it's nepotistic, whether it's someone's friend, or whether it's they've just promised someone, or they don't know what else to do with them. One of the most unfair things you can do within your company is promote somebody that's not capable of doing the job. It's not fair to the staff, it's not fair to that person, and it's certainly not fair to the clients if they're client-facing.
Well, yeah, this guy, the reason why he got this position is because, well, his contract had come up to an end, and he started kicking and screaming because he didn't want to have to go and get another job. It's public sector. Well, you did this for so-and-so, why can't you do it for me? He started kicking and screaming. They went, all right, we'll give him this project, which happened to be a very big project, and he wasn't capable of doing it. And all the way throughout, whilst he was supposed to be leading us, all the staff, as I say, I was only a student then, they're all saying, if this was the private sector, he wouldn't have got the job. If this was put out there.
Well, he might have. He might not have, but he might have got the job. I guess the difference in the private sector is he would probably have been dealt with earlier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When I say dealt with, if he wasn't performing, somebody would have noticed, somebody would have picked up on it, and someone would have said, right, okay, so you've got some performance metrics. he'd have got a warning letter. He'd have been put on, on the HR list so that his performance was being monitored. And ultimately, if he wasn't able to perform the job, he would have been let go. And that's actually, it sounds horrible, right? When you say to someone, we haven't got, you're not able to do your job, you're going to have to go. And I've had to do that as well. It's a hard thing to do, but when you think about it, in fact, John Timpson of Timpson's Shoes tells a great story about this. So the people that Timpson's Shoes deal with are often ex-offenders, and they train people in prison to be able to cut keys, to resole shoes, to do all sorts of things, with the objective that when they come back into society, if they're good and they're motivated, they can get a job in Timpson's. Okay. But John Timpson says, he doesn't like all the rules and process of HR because it should be, it should be about treating people fairly. And that's fairly for them and fairly for the company. So his view is every manager is motivated. If someone's not working and it's not working out, they take them on one side and say, look, this is not working. We need you to do this job. These are the responsibilities. Can you do them? And either the person's honest and says, yes, I want to do them. I'm motivated. I didn't realise, and now I am going to do those things, and they start towing the line. Or they're honest and say, you know what, I don't think it's for me, and they look for something else because they've been put under a little bit of pressure. But if it goes further and they say, yes, they're going to toe the line, but then they don't, his approach is really fair. Bring them into the office and say, look, it's not working out for you. It's not working out for us. You clearly don't want to be here. We've told you what's expected. You're not doing it. What we'd like to do is give you some severance money, give you a reference, and you go off and find another job. And if we can help you find another job, we will do. And he's not had any tribunals because he's acting fairly. Now, that's a pretty difficult situation to deal with. But if that's the ethos within the company, everybody knows that they're there, they've got to do their job, toe the line, otherwise they go through that little process.
Another good, I love that story, and I think another thing that, I alluded to earlier was, he had an awkward conversation to have, and I think that in difficult times, people avoid those awkward conversations, and I think that if you're leading in difficult times, you can't shy away from things. You've got to tackle things head on, otherwise things are going to get worse and worse and worse, whether it's relationships breaking down, or this is happening, or that's on fire, or whatever,
No, very much. And how many people do you know just won't have those kinds of conversations, and they won't sit there and have a discussion with you. They'll actually avoid you rather than talk about it. It is difficult, and it is stressful as well for people. The thing is, you're not the first person that's experienced it. There's lots of other people that have experienced it as well, and there's lots of great HR professionals out there that will just get you on the right track, give you a bit of a process to go through, and just help you with that kind of stuff. Just as there are, if you've got cash flow issues, you can go to a corporate finance guy if your bank won't support you on the numbers and account details that you've got. You can go to a corporate finance person, and they'll help you figure out what your business is, prepare your numbers in a format that a lender will lend against, and then if you're suitable to lend against, they'll lend you the money. And they'll put all the systems and processes in there to help you make sure that you understand it and you're in a position to pay it back. So they'll help in strengthen a business, and that's crucially important. Difficult times usually are a way of pulling a team together. Unless it's gone absolutely critical and it falls apart, then it's unrecoverable, and that does happen from time to time. But there's a lot of support people around, business coaches, consultants, accountants, lawyers, that will help you through that, and they've experienced it all before. Unfortunately, it does cost a little bit of money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I say, with difficult times, you have that clear vision, clear action plan. You hope that you've got some kind of emotional currency with your staff, but hopefully, I think the really good thing is that with difficult times, it just brings out people's true colours or their true character. And if anything, you'll know who was with you and who wasn't.
Absolutely right. Yeah, you definitely know who's with you and who's not, because the ones that not, you know, the first sign that there's any difficulty, any strife, they're looking for something else, and then you figured out that yeah, they might have been a great part of the team, but they were just doing a job.
Oh yeah, like I've been in situations like I suppose private sector, public sector, voluntary sector, probably all three, where you get some people who are the most vocal. You know, in the meeting rooms, they want to be the golden boy or the golden gal or whatever. But as soon as something happens, things are a bit shaky. They're chipping. It's just like, well, what the hell? You know, where did you go?
Yeah. No, absolutely. You can't see them for dust. They've not got the commitment to the team for one reason or another. Either they're in the wrong job, don't enjoy it, or you know, it's just not for them. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do there. Hope that's been helpful. Are there any other examples you want to add, Haroon?
I think we've covered them all. I think we've covered them all for today.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, good stuff. Thanks for that. So this has been At the Sharp End, a weekly business show where we cover hot topics that either our clients have experienced or we've experienced directly. Thanks again to our one and only head of digital marketing, Haroon Rashid. Thanks, Haroon.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a good show, and I look forward to doing the same again next week and seeing you all around then. If you want to see any more details about Khemeia, check out the blog. There's details below. And if you've watched us on YouTube, please watch the rest of the channel for the Khemeia network. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.